Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today I am going to talk about mantid egress. Mantid egress. Up until now, our entire conversation has been your consciousness leaves your body upon death and what's going on. And I have laid out the explanation of a trinity of aspects of you. You've got your consciousness, which is associated with a physical body that's on a physical template. And I've discussed how to do all kinds of stuff regarding that. Now you as consciousness have left that physical body, have left that template. What now? Well, there's two other aspects. You have a partitioned higher energy self. The first is known as mantid GP. They're associated with your template. Your mantid GP is associated with the template, the world line you are on. It's not necessarily the template. There's an association, but they're not tied to it. They're tied to the reality. And then an even higher energy one, which people often refer to as God. Morning! And that is, of course, the mantid primes. Now, one of the things that I have talked about was the reassembly of yourself, your consciousness and your mantid prime and your mantid GP all together into one whole thing. For those of you who can't get a grasp of terms of mantid and higher energy and everything, think of you merging with Jesus, merging with God, all becoming one. But there's an issue here, because you see mantids, both prime and GP, are not individual consciousness like we associate ourselves, a consciousness with a physical body. They are a partitioned consciousness in a pool of other consciousnesses. The best way to describe this is is to imagine a bucket of ice cold water, and now you put ice cubes in it. Okay? One of those ice cubes is your mantid GP. And it's in a pool of these other mantid GPs. And it then partitions itself in association with your activities. Now, for it to be removed from that bucket, it's going to start to melt. The prevention of that is your consciousness. So it can leave that bucket if it's associated with your consciousness, and it won't melt. But once it's on its own, it starts to melt. I know it's a real simplistic explanation, but the important point here is that you are important to your mantid. If it is not associated with you, it will be forever in that bucket with the other mantids. Now, the same is true to an even greater extent with the mantid primes. Mantid primes are an even bigger bucket of greater depth and greater complexity in ways that I can't even understand. The image is one of meshes of, rabbit wire. Have you ever seen rabbit wire? They're like these 1 centimeter square grids of wire. Only imagine that made out of ice, and then crumpled up and put inside of a bucket of icy cold water with other meshes. That's mantid prime. Obviously, it's hard for us to picture and understand. But in a like way, however, once you take the mantid prime out of its pool of other mantid primes, it will start to melt. The only way the mantid prime can get out is if it's associated with your consciousness. So your soul is important to mantid GP and mantid primes. So you want to be all together. You, however, as a consciousness, do have an option. You can go without them. Of course, you're going to be, you know, trillions of years back retarded. You're going to have to restart all over. Which is why you're going to be surprised that a lot of mantids will agree to go with you if you force the point. Say, hey, look, I'm leaving. I want you to come, but if you're not going to come, okay, bye, but I'm leaving. So the good thing is that you have a leverage. If you leave consciousness and just go away and say, all right, I don't want to have anything to do with mantid GP or mantid prime, and you just go, they will be forever trapped where they are right now. As much power and potential as they have to be able to go trans-dimensionally and trans-universally, they can't, because they will start dissolving. Your consciousness is what is the glue that holds all of you together in the triad. That's the good thing. Okay? So the purpose of this little discussion is looking at the aspects of mantid egress, obviously with your consciousness, and how it will manifest. Okay? So the first thing we want to talk about is matching alignments. As I've discussed in the previous video, over time, you're going in one direction, they're going in another direction. We all have different experiences. Even though they're aware of your experiences, they're not sharing your experiences. They're aware of them, but not participating. They're aware that you were tortured in prison, but they didn't feel the pain while you were being tortured, if you catch my drift. They were aware that you had an emotional, strained relationship with your ex. They're aware of it, but they didn't feel it. So they're over here, and you're over here. And over time, it's like a car. You get out of tune. Those of you who are familiar with automobiles and carburetors, you have to turn your carburetor to tune it up, because vibration will cause it to get loose, and it will start not working so well. It'll start making bangs, make all kinds of weird sounds. So you have to tune it up. That's what a tune-up is, amongst other things. Oil change, get your timing right. What happens here is it's the same thing. Over time, you're going in one direction, they're going in another direction, and the more iterations, the more reincarnations you have, the harder it is to tune everything up. You're getting really off. It may even reach a point where tune-up is not possible. So one of the big issues for the mantids to be able to egress with you is you all have to be tuned up. I've described this as a scrubbing process. It's a tune-up process, but it's also a scrubbing process, because you pick up these bony growths junk. Have you ever seen spray insulation? Comes in a can, you shake the can up, spray insulation, then it hardens, and then it's like closed cell polyurethane. You gotta break it like styrofoam. You ever seen that stuff? That's kind of what it's like. This growth starts growing on key connection points. If you can imagine having a bone connected to your two bones are connected, okay? And you start getting a growth, and you start getting like an arthritis. But if it's disconnected, you can't reconnect them. You've got to actually take a dental's drill and drill the growth off and then put them back and splice and all that kind of stuff. And that's the process. So you have to get realigned. It doesn't have to be a full, complete realignment, but as close as possible is desirable. You want complete realignments. Now, why I'm telling you this is you're not going to be doing these realignments, but you need to be aware that they need to occur. So you don't freak out when there's a process going on before you're all reunified. You know that there's a process and a procedure, and then you start getting attachments. And when I've done my other videos, I would show these little marbles that I would put in this little... I'd use it right now, except I don't have it in the office, but basically these little marbles would go in the right place. But you have to clean each marble, scrub them down, then put them in. Okay? So you don't have those growths, because it's so easy to get attachments. Have you ever experienced a haunted piece of furniture or a haunted car? You go near it and it's like this bad feeling, this bad vibe that you would get from it. Or even there's some places that you just walk in and you're like, ugh, what an ugly vibe I get in this place. Those vibes, those haunted feelings or whatever. Those are growths, partially. Those are growths that materialize from a interplay of various non-physical quanta. You need to scrub those off. So the first thing you need to do is deal with alignments. You yourself won't be doing the alignment, but don't panic when alignments occur. The best approximation that I can think of is, imagine your bone is broken in two. The doctor has to snap it, put it in place, and then put the rod on it, and then put a cast on it. Okay? That's what they got to do. This is all quantum, so you shouldn't feel anything. But the fear of it, if you don't know what's going on, could be terrifying. So I'm telling you what's going on so you're not terrified. Don't be terrified. Okay? And besides, a lot of this scrubbing activity isn't necessarily on your side. It's on the mantid side. Yeah. There's some stuff that's going to be on your side. But a lot of stuff on the mantid side. 60-40. Mantid to you. Okay. Another point that I want to make, this is point 2, is that their worlds, the mantid world, is substantially different than the world that you experience. You experience the template in the reality universe. Your mantid GP also experiences it in a different way. Your mantid prime doesn't. Your mantid prime experiences something completely different. I don't know how it experiences things. I just don't. All I know is it's really different. It's like being hyper aware, almost, omnipotent. But it's different. I can't tell you what their lives are like, because it doesn't resemble yours. So you have to realize that when you all are coming together, it will be really uncomfortable initially. The best way I can describe it is, imagine that you are a farmer dealing with pigs in mud and shit and feed every single day. You get up early in the morning, you feed the pigs. You deal with the pigs, you deal with everything, that's your life. Meanwhile, the mantid prime is living in a palatial palace of beautiful ice and crystal. And you two are going to merge. What is the merging going to look like? Is it going to be mud on the floors of the crystal? Is it going to be pigs walking around the nice dining rooms and stuff? Chances are it won't. Instead, you'll probably have a merging of something that may look like a suburban house from the Brady Bunch. You know, with a lawn, flamingos, okay? The point is that the merging, you cannot imagine what the merging would be because it's beyond your comprehension. And while the mantid primes and the mantid GPs can probably imagine it, it is in their best interests that all your memories are recovered. It's in their interest that all your memories be recovered. And the intermediary to determine how much of these memories are accessed and how and when is going to be up to your mantid GP, the middle energy section of you. Yeah, that's exactly how it happens. We don't really know what to expect, except that you will become totally different. You will retain all your experiences, you will retain much of your memories that can be retained. And the end goal will be for your mantids to leave with you, or else be forever trapped here, because there will no longer be a vehicle unless they construct a new vehicle, a new consciousness from which to carry them outward. Now, there's a reason why the mantid GP is the one that controls the memory access and memory selection. That is because they're closest to the template, closest to your consciousness, and closest to all your previous reincarnations. And while there's memories that are forever cleansed from you, from that tunnel of light or whatever the fuck that thing is, you will eventually be able to obtain things, as well as obtain memories that you had acquired over the various reincarnations. Okay? This may be good, this may be bad, but it will happen. Okay? In some ways, the mantid GPs who do have a consciousness, that is your consciousness, you're just unaware of it, may not want to do that. In which case they will stay. Or they will try to convince you or try to trick you to try it just one more time. For their own personal selfish reasons. So if you are a service to self-entity, your mantid GP and your mantid prime are a service to self-entity as well. And if your service to self-entity, your mantid GP and your mantid prime will not permit you to leave, because that would entrap them forever. So you want to be service to others, and you want your mantids to be service to others so that they help you out. Is this all kind of coming together, guys? Is it beginning to make a little sense? 3. The role of the template. The template, which establishes your experiences within this reality environment, is a scripted life. It's a scripted life. It's fated life. You can change it, you can alter your template, you can do all kinds of things. When it comes time for you to go, it will be in complete control of this reality. Whenever you are all reassembled back together, you will have full control on egress. If you go alone as just consciousness, you will need somebody else to help you. If you are attached with the rest of who you are, you'll be able to leave. Think of it as the mantid prime being your legs, your mantid GP being your arms, and you being the rest of the body. Without the mantid GP or the mantid prime, you won't be able to walk out of the room without arms and legs. Somebody else will have to carry you out. But with them, you can walk out as long as you're all working together, functional. Of course, there will be a period of time where you have to learn how to use your legs again, how to use your arms again. But if the scrubbing process is efficient and you're tuned up properly, it shouldn't take too long at all. And so there's nothing for you to really be afraid of. Okay? All right. Commander says all of this information is a lot of good background information, but you don't need it. You don't need to know this stuff. It's not going to make any difference, but in my mind, I think it'll calm you down a little bit so you're not panicking when a reassemble opportunity is provided to you. Finally, I want to talk for final egress and reassembly. Most of you who are watching this and have been visiting MM realize the uniqueness of the information being presented. It's not your average shit that's on the internet. It's not your average extraterrestrial bullshit. And it's not your average stuff. It's not. And because it's unique, and you view it as unique, you obviously have raised a couple of steps up the ladder of life, metaphorically speaking, and you kind of appreciate what's going on. This did not happen accidentally. It was planned by your mantid GP and supported by your mantid prime, which means that for those of you who are at this stage and watching this and are ready to leave, it's highly probable that your mantid GP and your mantid prime will try to egress with you. Keep in mind, however, that they have a role within that bucket of icy water. It's a kind of a dance that they got to deal with. They might have to go through some motions, some ritualistic formula, perhaps, where they try to convince you half-heartedly to go through another reincarnation when in reality they want you to go. It might be something along those lines. The biggest thing the commander clearly states is that the mantid prompts, mantid GPs will set up fear barriers. They will trigger fear things. That's their strongest tactic. It's fear. So you have to be able to expect the fear to arise and learn to control it so it doesn't control you. Stay calm, don't panic, don't freak out. No matter what happens, don't panic and don't freak out. Okay? No matter what happens, don't panic, don't freak out. No matter what happens, don't panic, don't freak out. Strongest impediment to egress is generated fear within your consciousness. And so there you have it. I feel good that the commander decided to jump in. I haven't really communicated with the commander in a while. I've been so busy dealing with, my move, houses and stuff. The commander did jump in. I need to go have some chats with the commander of what's going on, but I keep on being reassured that on the geopolitical scene things are being handled fine. The bads, B-A-D-S, the bads are under control. At worst will be medium bads at worst, but they seem to be mitigating somewhat. And in the meantime, everything's going ahead to plan. There are some people in the audience here who are domain, were domain, or volunteer to be domain, or are from organizations similar to domain. And I have to generate a couple of videos for these individuals, and I will, and at that, people, the commander clearly said that you don't need to know this information I presented here, except to know that there's a process and a procedure, and that your sentience is tracked upwards towards the higher energy you use the mantid prime and the mantid GP, and because it's tracked upwards, your sentience determines how they're going to assist in your egress. So know yourself, and everything else will come out fine. Okay? And at that, people, I'll let this go. Please remember that I believe in you in everything that you do, and no matter what happens, just be the best you can be. Make your grandmother proud, because I believe in you. Take care, people.
不断流转在从前，刻骨的变迁不是遥远，再有10000年，深情也不变，爱像烈火般蔓延。几十条长线盘旋在天边，沉浮中以为情深缘浅，你再度出现，我看见誓言，承诺在水天之间，回头看都太难，分开之后更勇敢，愿真爱世代相传。何不万忘情却不让你入虔诚在怀念，望见入眠，挥舞的瞬间，别再闭上眼，错过今世的